let's talk about a team that did not win with a great defense on Monday night because the defense was not great. The New York Jets, completely and totally dismantled by the San Francisco 49ers rushing attack. 70 plays, 180 rushing yards. The 49ers had the ball nearly 39 minutes. It really was, when you consider the things we didn't expect for week one, the strength of the Jets, the front seven, the defense entirely, we did not expect them to get gashed, especially if we would have had time to ponder the unavailability of Christian McCaffrey. It would have been even less expected that the 49ers, without McCaffrey, would have embarrassed the Jets defense, Myles, the way they did.
I mean, I guess on the one hand, yeah, that's true. But on the other, I mean, Kyle Shanahan had Robert Saleh in his building for years. So if anybody understands what the Robert Saleh defense is, it would be Kyle Shanahan. And I mean, I think we know that when you have a play designer who understands, and a play caller who understands things as Kyle Shanahan does, you give him the amount of time that he had to prepare for the Jets. Like, those are the kinds of results you're going to get. And I don't know, Mike. I mean, I was in my group chat with my friends on Monday night, and we're going back and forth. Like, how many yards rushing do you think you could get with Kyle Shanahan game planning for you and calling the plays? I said I could get at least 10. One of our buddies just tore his ACL, so he said he's got to recover first. But I mean, the rest of it, we could get at least 10 yards based on the way he's doing things. I mean, the way that Kyle Shanahan finds running backs and accentuates what they do well and understands what their skill sets are and utilizes a guy like Trent Williams out there who basically just came in off the street. I mean, this is just what he does. So is it surprising in some ways? Yes. In other ways, no, based on Kyle Shanahan's history.
That's what makes the decision to trade for and give so much money to Christian McCaffrey even more ironic, if I'm using the word properly, and I never know whether I am. You don't need to pay Christian McCaffrey. You don't need to. Jordan Mason is making $985,000 this year. It crosses over into when you've got so many high-priced players on your team. That's the area where you can save money because you have confidence in the fact you can draft someone who can come in and you can plug him into the offense behind that rushing attack and get it done. Let me flip your point around, though.
Okay.
For as well as Kyle Shanahan knows Robert Saleh, go ahead.
No,
I'll give you a minute to respond.
Thank you very much. But because I would say that when you have somebody like a Christian McCaffrey, right, that's an elite guy. So he's a separator. All right. So it's not like Mason is going out and doing this in the playoffs where you have a season's worth of film, right? Christian McCaffrey is an elite player. So when you have an elite guy who's proven to be an elite guy, and Christian McCaffrey led the league in touchdowns last year, right? I mean, he led the league in all-purpose yards from scrimmage. So this is different, when it's week one and you're basically premiering a guy versus a guy who has done it and done it and done it at an elite level for years and years and years. That's where I think that they understand how you can utilize Christian McCaffrey in a way that accentuates him and makes him have the best season that he's had. And he's a separator. So I get it. Like, you can insert a guy in there for a game and have him have a spot start. But I think if you're talking about over the course of a 17-week season and then also 17-game season, and then you get into the playoffs and you want to go to the Super Bowl and try to win the Super Bowl, that's where McCaffrey does make a difference because he gives you an edge because he's elite, right? Mason, had a great game, but I don't know that he's elite.
Time is up.
Time
is up. You've
Sorry.
Exhausted your minute.
Right.
I still say dollar for dollar, it's a conversation to have. Dollar for dollar, those money.
Yeah, it's a conversation.
That money, those monies can be allocated elsewhere because you can get somebody. You can have a whole, like they used to do. They had 3 guys, and you never knew who it was going to be in San Francisco. So the point that you made earlier that caused something to flash in my brain. Yes, Kyle Shanahan knows Robert Saleh very well, but Saleh knows Shanahan very well. That was one of the arguments that, hey, maybe this is going to line up great for the Jets. Maybe the best guy for Aaron Rodgers to finally beat the 49ers with is a guy who was in the house in San Francisco and knows the Shanahan offense and can do enough defensively to augment what Aaron Rodgers can do offensively, and it didn't work. Shanahan got the edge there. And Shanahan hung a loss on Robert Saleh that might grease the skids towards Saleh returning to the 49ers as soon as next year. I mean, that's the popular thought. There was this whole who do you hire as defensive coordinator, and they wanted Brandon Staley, but they didn't want to get away from their defense, so Nick Sorensen becomes the coordinator, but Staley is there. Stop asking. And now it could be Saleh by next year if Saleh's available. And he's 0-1 now. He needs to win more games. And it's just 1 week, but if he doesn't make the playoffs, he's going to be available, and he may be with the 49ers this time next year.
Yeah, he certainly could. I mean, I certainly had that thought during the game as well. So, I mean, yeah, but I think based on history, right, Robert Saleh doesn't necessarily know how to implement the Kyle Shanahan offense, because if he did and he had Mike LaFleur running that thing, then maybe we wouldn't be in the situation where you have Nathaniel Hackett calling the offense, right? So that's, I think part of the difference too.
There's a clip, and I don't know how misleading it is because it's not very long, but it's Hackett sitting next to Aaron Rodgers on the bench on Monday night, and Hackett's trying to show him the Microsoft Surface tablet. Get it right? Not that they sponsor us, but still, it's not an iPad. It's a tablet. And Rodgers is just ignoring him. Just not, and who knows? Maybe he was talking to somebody else, but it's a weird look. It's like Hackett's like, hey, look.
Over him.
And Rodgers is looking the other way. True, but that's Rodgers' guy. Hackett is Rodgers' guy. That's what makes it odd that Hackett and Rodgers wouldn't be on the same page. So, yeah, and they make no bones about it. They tried to hire somebody who would oversee the offense ahead of and instead of the offensive coordinator, which is just odd. The defensive performance, though, was the most odd thing for the Jets. Here's Robert Saleh from yesterday. He doesn't seem to be very worried about the strength of his roster.
It wasn't for a lack of effort as much as it was for guys just trying to do too much. When you play a team like San Francisco, they've been together 8 years. They're very precise in what they do. It's as simple as just do your job. Do your job, and we would have been in much better shape. Like I said, in the second half, I felt like we got to it. We played better in the run game. They had the one explosive, but it's going to get fixed. It's definitely going to get fixed. I'm not discouraged in any way. Obviously, they executed a hell of a lot better than we did, and we'll be better for it.
Fact or fiction? I sense a trend. Fact or fiction? There's no need to worry about the New York Jets defense.
I would say fact. If it looks like this after 4 games, the first, quote unquote quarter of the season, because of course now that we can't split the season into quarters because there's 17 games, which still annoys me. But I think if it looks like this further down the line, then yes. But it's not like they were playing, the Carolina Panthers on Sunday or Monday night, right? They were playing the San Francisco 49ers, and we know that there are elite players on that offense. And yeah, Mason's not one of them, that we would consider, but it's an elite run game. It's an elite pass game. And so I'm not worried about the Jets fundamentally as a defense quite yet. Are you?
No, I agree with you. And, one of the things that I'll say every year in the aftermath of week 1, you never know how bad that team might have been that you beat. You never know how good that team is that beat you. This isn't like college where it's an alarm if Northern Illinois comes in and beats you, and it's a point of pride if
Notre Dame catching strays.
Well, I mean, it's true, but that's the one that happened most recently, or if you have one of those big spot kickoff games and you beat a powerhouse, you secured a significant win. At the NFL level, we don't know and won't know who's really good and who isn't, but we can come to a somewhat reasonable conclusion that as the Jets' schedule goes, even though it's very nutty in its configuration of games, 3 games between the 9th and the 19th, they've got another Sunday to Thursday turnaround before their bye, a lot of movement, but not a lot of teams that we would look at and say, oh, they're going to have their hands full. And the Jets are the one, I thought they would, the 49ers, I thought they would lose to the 49ers, but they would play well enough that it would propel them into this, go home, regroup, go to Tennessee, play the Titans, come home on a short week, and play the Patriots, and maybe get to 2-1. I'm a little less optimistic they're going to get to 2-1, especially because the Patriots look like maybe they got something. But I didn't expect them to win, And this is probably the toughest opponent they're going to face in the first half of their schedule.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, I think that this could be the kind of thing that you get right with going to Tennessee, right? I mean, based on Will Levis's performance, he was all right in the first half, but he really peed down his leg in the second half. And I think that the Jets are the kind of unit that can make a young quarterback do that. So Will Levis has a lot of work to do over the course of this week to make sure he stays playing within himself and doesn't try to do crazy things, because if he does, then the Jets are going to do to him what the Bears defense did to him. And I think that the Jets defense probably wants to do that, as after the performance that they put out on the field on Monday night. So this could be a good get right game for them. And I think that the Titans defense is going to be a solid unit. I like what Denard Wilson is doing over there. I think he's a really good coach. So that's part of the equation as well. But from a defensive standpoint, I think the Jets should look more like we expect them to look going against a young quarterback in Levis this week.
This first 11-game stretch for the Jets, and I'm reminded of when the schedule came out in May, Mike North, the guy who's basically the scheduling guru now for the NFL, made the somewhat joking, but in every joke, there's at least a kernel of truth. The Jets owe us one from last year. The Jets.
I didn't detect much sarcasm when he said
selfishly,
that.
Selfishly, the Jets tore the Achilles tendon of Aaron Rodgers to suit their own nefarious purposes. So now the Jets owe us one. Like they wanted the outcome. But when you look at this, it bears repeating because it's been a while. After they go to Tennessee, Thursday night against New England, then they have the Broncos. Then they go to London to play the Vikings. Then they come back and play the Bills on a Monday night, at the Steelers on a Sunday night, short week, 2 primetime games in a row. Then they have the Patriots, short week again, week 8 to week 9. They go home from New England to face the Texans. Then they're at the Cardinals, who didn't look awful in week 1. And then they wrap up their pre-bye schedule with a Sunday night game against the Colts. They should win at least of the next 10 games. I think they should win at least 6. They should be 6-5 minimum going into their bye. And if they're anything worse than 6-5 going into their bye, I think they got a problem at the end
especially
of the season.
In the AFC.
And there's going to be a lot of change. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Look, I mean, we know it's going to be competitive in the AFC. I mean, I think it would be a real shock if it's not, based on the quarterbacks that play in that conference. And honestly, the defenses that are also in that conference, some of them are very, very good and maybe a little bit underrated. So yeah, it's not going to be an easy task for the Jets to become a great team. But if you get the Aaron Rodgers, as he looked on that touchdown drive, where he's in control, he's firing passes. You get guys like Garrett Wilson making really good catches. That's where the Jets can have something. I don't know if they can do that consistently yet, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.